Good evening, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the most venerable elk cartridge ever made. I'm just kidding. We're talking about the 6.5 Creedmoor. Let's be serious. In all seriousness, guys, I wanted to talk about the 6.5 Creedmoor today because it is such a hated cartridge for a multitude of reasons. Some deserved, some undeserved. But if you guys watched my last video, you know it was about this Tikka T3X Super Light, and mine happens to be a 6.5 Creedmoor. So I talked about how on earth I ended up with such a wussy cartridge and things like that. Long story short, I stopped buying cartridges a long time ago and started buying rifles I want in a cartridge that will work for what I want it to do. That being said, I had picked out a Tikka T3X Super Light, and I was dead set on a 7mm08, but I couldn't find one. I talked about it in the last video. I couldn't find one. I finally caved and got a 6.5 Creedmoor, and since then, I've actually liked it. Now, it's important to talk about the reasons I like it and why I haven't had any issues with it, right? I grew up shooting a 243, okay? We shot 80 and 100 grain core locks every year and killed deer, mule deer, every single year, pretty much. Dad and Gramps killed a lot of deer with it. I shot a lot of deer with it as I got older. So going from a 243 to a 6.5 Creed wasn't any kind of scary proposition in terms of, ballistic capabilities for me by any means. Also, I had zero plans of this ever being a primary elk cartridge because I have a 300 Win Mag and a 7 Mag and I had a 7 STW and you get it, right? So with that being said, this gun's whole goal was to be a fairly lightweight mule deer, antelope, black-tailed deer, sub 500 yard hunting gun, right? That was its purpose when I bought the rifle, and this gun itself has fit that bill so well. I lived in Oregon when I bought it. Like I say, watch the last video, but we've hunted antelope, blacktail, and mule deer with it. It's performed incredibly just fine. So the reason I was kind of after a new gun when I bought this one is some of my bigger guns I just wasn't really super stoked with for the reasons that I was saying. I now buy rifles instead of cartridges. I love the rounds, but I didn't really like the guns. And I wanted another gun for my dad to shoot on this mule deer hunt that we had coming up. He lived in North Carolina at the time. I lived in Oregon. He didn't want to fly with a rifle. You get the point. So went out, finally caved, picked this one up, picked up a box of the venerable Hornady Outfitter ammunition with the 120 GMX at the time, went, sighted it in, took it mule deer hunting. Him and I both actually ended up killing our deer with this rifle. Both of them were pretty much exactly 300 yards. He hit his shoulder, boom, down he went. He kind of did that typical face in the dirt, took a few steps and tipped over. Mine, pretty similar. He was quartering a little bit more, and I hit him a little bit higher than I wanted, actually. Kind of in like the upper middle of the back, and the bullet actually exited out his front shoulder this way. Copper bullet, thing was a monster. I was amazed that it actually exited out the front here. Great performance on those. Again, coming from a 243, I really wasn't afraid of the 6.5 Creedmoor, right? Which gets me to this. Like anything, guys, you can't use a bad pairing of a bullet for your given task and expect it to perform well, right? That's just the reality. You can't shoot 150 military surplus ball ammo out of your 308 at deer either, right? It just doesn't work. It's the same thing here. As always said, shoot a good projectile, put it in the right place, and odds are you're going to be okay. Said, I haven't been innocent from the, ELD type, bullet profile. Ballistically, they're just naughty in the best way. They shoot so well out of this gun. The 140 ELDMs in particular, I've shot a lot of those through this gun. This gun has killed animals with the 120 GMX, the 142 AccuBond long range, and the 140 Hornady ELDM, okay? The ELDM was on an antelope, 327 yards. I'll put the picture on the screen. Viewer discretion advised. It is a little bit graphic. She was facing me. I was on the bipods, torched it off. Long story short, or he was facing me, whatever. Long story short, boom, shot, watched the impact, few steps later, down he went. Bullet entered in kind of the front of the chest cavity, exited kind of the offside of what's laying down in the picture. It did a hell of a job. I mean, that was quick performance. So I was kind of really thinking about using it for deer, but I had an elk hunt that year. That year I got lucky. I had a antelope tag, an over-the-counter blacktail tag, and a elk tag, okay? Obviously, like I said, 300 Win Mag gets the nod for elk 9 times out of 10, right? So that particular year, I knew I wanted to take this gun as a backup because it's kind of become my daily driver rifle. I bring it with me everywhere, and if I need to use it, I use it. If not, whatever. Sighted it in with the 142 Akibon long ranges, practiced with it, doped it, the whole 9. Blacktail season rolled around. I made one heck of a long shot on the smallest deer I've ever seen, or, well, not seen, but smallest buck I've ever killed in my life. Shot him at around 60 yards, okay, again, facing me, seems to be a pattern. He was quartering at a kind of a weird angle. Again, bullet went in the front side here and came out like right here. If you guys have ever hunted blacktails, you'll understand why I shot that. Let me say that again. If you've ever hunted blacktails on public land on your days off because you're a poor, younger guy, things like that, you'll understand. If you haven't, make your way out to Oregon or Washington and give that coastal range for blacktails a try. It's well worth doing, I'll put it that way. That is one of the craziest hunts you will ever go on. So getting a little bit deeper into the video, guys, one thing you're not going to hear me say is that this is some kind of 1,200-yard elk stomper, right? That's not the case. You're also not going to hear me tell you that it's a bad hunting round. It's not. If you severely dislike it, I think it's really because of the people that own them, right? There's a lot of annoying people, just like anything else, that when they own one of these, they tell you it's the latest, greatest. They're banging steel at 1,000 yards, which, let me tell you, these guns do make that incredibly easy. It truly does exactly what it was designed for impeccably. It was designed to be a long range, low recoil, long heavy BC bullet at a moderate velocity, and bang steel out there at a long ways. And it does that phenomenally. It's incredible how well it does it, actually. That being said, for hunting, it's another short action, 120 to 150-ish class of bullets at moderate velocities, right? Sub 3 grand 99% of the time, and in the 140s you're more like 26 to 27, somewhere in there. But to pretend it's somehow drastically better or worse than, say, a 308 or a 708 for most people's hunting situations is also a little bit funny. Like I said, guys, it's important to keep in mind with a cartridge like this, or really anything like a 243 even, it's important to keep in mind what it is. What are the ballistics profiles and where is that going to excel in a hunting type situation, right? I would not be afraid to take this rifle elk hunting. It's been in my hands on some elk hunts some days, just because it's so light and everything. But it's not, if I've got a once-in-a-lifetime elk hunting opportunity, I'm probably taking the 300, like I said earlier. Again, I'm not afraid to shoot elk with it. I'm more than happy I'd just get, close enough, and I shoot this rifle incredibly accurate. I've put more rounds on this gun than any other rifle I've owned. Maybe the 243 I was shooting growing up is close, but I don't think so. Getting back to that, terminally, like I said, you put an Akibon long range or a normal Bond Strike or a Barnes LRX or, whatever will have you. Some people even swear by the LDX. You get the point, right? You put one of those bullets in the pump house or through both lungs of a elk, it's not going to end well at a reasonable range. And I mean, people have been killing moose with the 6.5 forever and ever and ever. So to pretend that this can't do it is silly. To pretend it's perfect for it is also silly. Something to keep in mind too is there seems to be a narrative that Hornady released this and just marketed the crap out of it, and next thing you know, it's just hotter than anything else on the market. That wasn't really how that went. It's actually been out since like 2007. I never really heard much about it until, I don't know, I mean, when, guys? 10 years ago? Maybe? Somewhere in there. So it was out for a good 8-ish, give or take, years before I even had ever heard of it. And then once it caught on, it was really hot. But like anything, if it's that hot for that long, there's typically a reason, right? Why is the 30-06 so popular for so long? Why is the 270 so popular for so long? This cartridge does a phenomenal job in its weight class, right? Like I said, keep in mind, what is it used for? Don't give me the crap of what it was designed for, because a 30-06 wasn't designed as a hunting cartridge, except for people, right? So, I don't really care what a cartridge was designed for. I care that it'll put a terminal package on target, and this will do it with anything else. Which, like I say, guys, I've never shot. None of the animals I've shot with this rifle, when I got up to them, have asked me to use something else next time, okay? So just keep that in mind. Like I say, if you shoot a 243 or a 6 Creed or a 708 or whatever, the 6.5 really falls in a similar category to me, right? Now, if you have a 7mm08 and a Tikka T3X Superlight, or, your gun of choice, should you run out and buy a 6.5 Creedmoor and expect it to be some lightning in a bottle magical hunting cartridge? No. I wouldn't necessarily do that if you just want another gun, sure. I wouldn't cross it off your list, though, if you're looking for a rifle to complete kind of a mission that you don't really have a rifle for, right? Like I was saying when I set this rifle up, I didn't have a, much lighter weight, good solid stainless barrel. I wanted some of that stuff. I didn't have a rifle that was anywhere in the category of this. The closest thing I had was Grandpa's old Woodstock Remington 700 ADL from, at this point probably 25, 30 years ago, where the bipod, it's just heavy, it's all that stuff, right? So this was a new category of rifle in my arsenal that I wanted to use for smaller to medium game, right? So if that's something that you're after, don't necessarily force yourself into a 6.5 Creedmoor, but don't check it off your list because of all the internet garbage either. As I talked about, this has become by far my most shot rifle, right? Most of the videos that you guys will see on this channel, aside from, like I say, elk or bison or even big bears, things like that, those are going to be with this rifle, most likely. Javelina, I use it, deer, antelope, whatever. Even if I'm going hunting with somebody and I'm bringing a gun along, even, here's a good example. One of my good friends has a deer hunt this year up north, okay? I'm going to buy a bear tag, and I'll probably just pack this rifle with me because A, our black bears here aren't that big, and B, he's shot this gun quite a bit too over the last couple of years. He just set up his kind of, really sick rifle that he got. But he's shot it quite a bit, so if he takes a spill or something weird happens, then he's comfortable with this rifle. He'll probably shoot this one, right? So again, I wouldn't be afraid to shoot a 200-pound black bear with the way I currently have it set up one bit. I wouldn't shoot a 200-pound black bear at 900 yards with it, right? That's not what I would do. But to, four-ish, 4 or 5 maybe, depending on the day and things like that, and energy-wise, I wouldn't be afraid to. I'd be fine. So like anything, guys, it's really just important. Like I say, I can't reiterate it enough. It's important to pair things up correctly, okay? Let's pick a brand of truck. Well, I'll use the F-150, but pick your half-ton. What is your favorite half-ton, okay? I'll use the F-150 for an example. If you have an F-150, it can be a good truck, right? If you try to tow a 20,000-pound fifth wheel with that F-150, is it really the truck that's not any good, or are you just using it incorrectly? Because those are two separate things, right? The truck is not right for that job. And that's what I think people need to kind of come to grips with this cartridge. But it is right for a lot of jobs. It's a more than adequate, it's more than adequate for a lot of small to medium game hunting situations, right? And that's what also a lot of people need to come to grips with. As I said, to pretend this is somehow far inferior to so many others is hilarious. To pretend it's far superior than many others is hilarious. Again, it shines in certain categories, right? All of them do. 243 shines in its own category. 6.5 shines in its own category. And my 300 Win Mag shines in its own category, right? If I'm going prairie dog shooting, my 300 Win Mag looks like a stupid choice compared to this rifle, right? And this rifle might look like a stupid choice compared to a 22-250, right? You see what I'm saying? So you got to pair things up correctly. It's like I said, guys, should you run out and grab a 6.5 Creedmoor, or if you have one, should you keep it? Yeah, maybe. Like I say, if you just want another rifle, I'm never going to tell you not to buy one. If you have a gap in your arsenal that you want to fill, and that's a round that makes sense to fill it, then sure, certainly. But that's really it for the video, guys. I just wanted to jump on, talk about kind of some common sense with a cartridge, which seems to be lacking nowadays. So, Whatever you guys think, drop it down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and we will see you next time.